Stay away. We're better without you and your kid, my mom said. I just said, okay. A few days later she texted, can you send $4,200? It's important. I replied, better means without my money too. My phone blew up. But then Hey. So, my name is Amanda, I'm 27 and about 3 months ago my mom looked me in the face, well technically through a text message, and told me that she and the family are better off without me and my son. And instead of falling apart like I always do, I just said, okay. One word. And I think that one word short-circuited something in her brain because she had absolutely no plan for what happens when Amanda stops begging. But let me back up. I live in Columbus, Ohio with my 4-year-old son, Brody. He's this sweet, goofy little kid who once tried to put a band-aid on a crack in the sidewalk because he thought the ground was hurt. He's my entire universe. I work at a dental office doing billing. It's not flashy but it pays rent and keeps Brody in a good preschool and I'm proud of that. My mom, Diane, is the kind of woman who walks into a room and immediately needs everyone in it to be impressed by her. Not because she's accomplished anything extraordinary but because she needs it like oxygen. And the way she makes herself look good? By making the people around her look small. Especially me. I have an older sister, Tessa. She's 29. Tessa fights back, always has. She once dumped sweet tea in our Uncle Ray's lap at a cookout because he commented on her shorts. Nobody messed with Tessa after that. Me. I was the quiet one. The absorber. The one who smiled through every insult and cried later where nobody could see. And Diane figured that out early. She knew Amanda would take it. Amanda always takes it. Until she didn't. 3 months ago, my cousin Jolene had a baby shower at my Aunt Patrice's house. Big family event, beautiful setup, everyone was there. I brought Brody and he spent 20 minutes at the kids' table drawing a picture for Jolene's baby. Stick figures, big yellow sun, triangle roof house. He was so proud of it. Then Diane showed up. Late obviously because Diane makes entrances. She worked the crowd, hugged everyone, laughed too loud. Standard performance. I kept my distance and figured I'd survive the afternoon. But Brody ran up to her with his drawing. Grandma, look what I made for the baby. And my mom looked down at him and said, loud enough for 15 people to hear, oh honey, that's cute but maybe let the other kids handle the art. That's not really your thing. He's 4. She told a 4-year-old he's not the artistic type. Some people did that nervous laugh and all Brody heard was Grandma rejected his picture and everyone laughed. He walked back to me with the drawing crumpled against his chest and buried his face in my legs. Can you imagine saying that to your own grandchild? But that wasn't even the worst part. Later, during the group photo, I watched Diane physically move Brody out of the front row, tuck him behind the taller kids where you couldn't even see him, and then step into center frame herself. She moved my child out of the way so she could have the spotlight. Something broke in me. Not cracked. Broke. I took Brody's hand, grabbed my bag and left without a word. That night Diane called. No hello, just, Amanda. Leaving without saying goodbye was really rude. People noticed. I told her she humiliated Brody in front of everyone. She said, stop being dramatic. I was being honest. Not every kid is good at everything. I said, okay mom. And hung up. Next morning 7:15 I got the text. I think it's best if you stay away for a while. We're all better without you and your kid dragging the mood down. Your kid. Not even his name. Just your kid. I typed back, okay. And I meant it. 4 days of silence. Then Thursday evening my phone buzzes. Diane. Hey Amanda. I need you to send me $4,200. It's for the furnace. It's important. No apology. No, how are you? 4 days after telling me to disappear she needed money. Like nothing happened. Old Amanda would have scrambled to find it. Old Amanda would have worked extra shifts, maybe put it on a credit card, anything to keep the peace. New Amanda picked up her phone and typed 6 words. Better means without my money too. Do you think I was wrong for that? Because honestly my finger hovered for about 10 seconds before I hit send. Then I remembered Brody's crumpled drawing and I pressed it so hard I almost cracked my screen. My phone exploded. 11 texts from Diane back to back. Then messages from relatives I hadn't talked to in years. That's your mother, Amanda. Family is family. You're being selfish. Diane pulled out every card. Guilt, shame, the classic you'll regret this when I'm gone. I blocked her. On everything. Phone, Facebook, Instagram, email. All of it. Then I sat on my kitchen floor and just breathed because I had never in 27 years stood up to that woman, and it was the most terrifying and freeing thing I've ever felt at the same time. Tessa called me an hour later. I almost didn't pick up because I didn't know whose side she was on. But it's Tessa, so I answered. She said, so I heard you told Mom to kick rocks. I laughed for the first time in days. Tessa told me Diane had called her ranting about how ungrateful I was. Tessa listened for 3 minutes and then said, "You literally told her you're better off without her. What did you expect?" And apparently Diane went quiet and then said, "She wasn't supposed to actually listen. She wasn't supposed to actually listen. Let that sink in. My mom told me to go away, but she didn't mean it. She wanted me to beg. She wanted the performance. Amanda crying, Amanda proving she needs Diane, Amanda feeding the ego. But I didn't play the part this time. Tessa told me to hold the line. She said, if you cave now, she'll know this works forever." And she was right. But I won't lie to you, I didn't sleep that night. I lay there thinking, what if she never speaks to me again? And then another voice in my head said, what exactly would you be losing? And that was the voice I chose to listen to. Here's the thing though. Blocking Diane didn't stop her. Diane doesn't get ignored. Diane always finds another way in. And what she pulled next honestly still makes my blood boil just thinking about it. So after I blocked Diane, I had maybe 3 days of peace. 3 days where I woke up, took Brody to preschool, went to work, came home, made dinner, and just existed without that knot in my stomach. 3 days where my phone wasn't a weapon someone was using against me. It was honestly the calmest I'd felt in years. And then Diane got creative. I came home from work on a Monday and Brody's preschool teacher, Miss Wendy, pulled me aside at pickup. She had this uncomfortable look on her face, the kind people get when they have to tell you something they really don't want to. She said, "Amanda, a woman came by today saying she was Brody's grandmother. She said she had permission to pick him up early." My stomach dropped. She tried to pick up my son from preschool. Without telling me. Without being on the pickup list. She just showed up and tried to take him. Miss Wendy said she turned Diane away because her name wasn't authorized, and Diane apparently made a small scene in the lobby. Not screaming, Diane would never scream in public, that would ruin her image. But doing that tight-lipped, condescending voice where she says things like, "I'm his grandmother, this is ridiculous, I don't need permission to see my own grandchild." Yeah, actually you do. I thanked Miss Wendy, got in my car and sat there for 10 minutes with my hands on the steering wheel just shaking. Not from fear. From rage. Because there's a difference between insulting me and going after my kid behind my back. That line. She didn't just cross it. She torched it. I called Tessa that night. Told her everything. And Tessa, who is usually the calm and sarcastic one, went dead quiet. That's how I knew it was bad. When Tessa goes quiet, she's not processing. She's loading. She said, "I'm going to talk to her." I said, "Tessa, don't. It'll just make things." "No. I'm talking to her. This isn't about you anymore, Amanda. He went to his school. That's not manipulation, that's unhinged." And honestly, I didn't argue. Because she was right. But here's the thing I didn't expect. Before Tessa even got the chance to confront Diane, something else happened. Something that completely blindsided me. My Aunt Patrice called. Now, Patrice is Diane's younger sister. They've always been close. Not like best friend close, but family loyalty close. Patrice has always kind of stayed neutral in Diane's drama. She's the let's not pick sides type. So when her name popped up on my phone, I figured she was calling to tell me to apologize. I almost didn't answer. But I did. And the first thing Patrice said was, "Amanda, I owe you an apology." I literally pulled the phone away from my ear and looked at it like it was broken. She said she'd been thinking about the baby shower ever since it happened. She said she saw what Diane did to Brody with the drawing. She saw her move him out of the photo. And she didn't say anything because, her words, "That's just how Diane is, and I've spent 40 years making excuses for her." Can you imagine hearing that? 40 years. Patrice had been watching Diane do this to people for 4 decades and just letting it happen because it was easier than confronting it. She told me that after I blocked Diane, my mom had called basically every family member trying to get them on her side. The story she was telling? That I was keeping Brody away from her out of spite. That I was being vindictive and cruel. That she had done nothing wrong and I was overreacting about a silly comment at a party. A silly comment. She called crushing a 4-year-old's heart a silly comment. But here's where it got interesting. Patrice said it wasn't working. She said most of the family wasn't buying it this time. My cousin Jolene, whose shower it was, had already told people what she saw with her own eyes. Jolene's husband Marcus backed it up. And apparently my Uncle Garrett, Diane's own brother, called her and said, "Diane, you've been pulling this garbage for years and everyone's tired of pretending they don't see it." Uncle Garrett said that. Garrett, who barely speaks at family events, who I once saw eat an entire Thanksgiving dinner without saying a single word. That Garrett. When Patrice told me that, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so unexpected. I had spent my entire life thinking the family either didn't notice or didn't care. Turns out they noticed. They always noticed. They were just too scared or too tired to say anything. Patrice also told me something that made my heart hurt in a weird way. She said that after Garrett's call, Diane had gone quiet. Not angry quiet. Not planning her next move quiet. Just quiet. Patrice said she stopped by Diane's house the next day and found her sitting at the kitchen table just staring at her phone. Not crying. Not ranting. Just sitting there. Part of me, the old Amanda, wanted to feel bad. Wanted to unblock her and call and say, "Mom, let's just forget all of this." But then I thought about Miss Wendy's face at the preschool and that urge died fast. Do you think I was being too hard? Honestly, tell me. Because sometimes in the middle of all this I couldn't tell if I was finally being strong or just being stubborn. Tessa talked to Diane that weekend. She drove over to our mom's house, sat down at that same kitchen table and laid it out. She told me later she didn't yell, didn't lecture. She just asked one question. "Mom, what exactly did Amanda do to you?" And Diane started in with the usual. "She's disrespectful, she's keeping Brody from me, Tessa cut her off. "No. What did she actually do to you? Not what she didn't do for you. What did she do?" Diane couldn't answer. She just kept circling back to how she felt disrespected and unappreciated. And Tessa said, "Mom, you told her you're better off without her. You made fun of your grandson in front of the whole family. You tried to pick him up from school without her knowledge. And you're the victim here." Silence. Then Diane said something that, when Tessa told me, I had to sit down. She said, "I just wanted her to need me." That sentence hit me like a truck. Because underneath all the cruelty, all the manipulation, all the showboating, my mom was terrified that I didn't need her. And instead of just being someone worth needing, she tried to force it. She tried to break me down enough that I'd have no choice but to cling to her. That's so messed up. And also somehow the saddest thing I've ever heard. But Tessa didn't let her off the hook. She told Diane, "Wanting someone to need you doesn't give you the right to hurt them. And going to Brody's school? Mom, that was scary. That wasn't love. That was control." Diane apparently didn't say much after that. Tessa said she just nodded slowly and then asked Tessa to leave because she wanted to be alone. Over the next couple weeks, things got strangely quiet. No flying monkeys texting me. No dramatic voicemails from unknown numbers. Just silence. Which honestly was almost worse because at least when there's noise you know what's happening. Silence could mean anything. Then one evening I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it, but the preview showed just 2 words, so I opened it. "I'm sorry." That's it. No explanation, no guilt trip. Just, "I'm sorry." I found out later Diane had borrowed Patrice's phone to send it because I had her blocked on everything. I stared at that message for a long time. And I didn't respond. Not because I was being petty. But because 2 words don't undo 27 years. And I needed to know those words were real before I let them anywhere near me or Brody. But something was shifting. I could feel it. The whole family dynamic that had been frozen in place for decades was starting to crack open. And what happened next, what Tessa decided to do, honestly I never in a million years would have predicted it. So that 2-word text, "I'm sorry," sat on my phone for 5 days. I didn't respond. Not out of pettiness. I just needed those words to prove they were real before I let them anywhere near me or Brody. Meanwhile, Tessa was doing something behind the scenes I had no clue about. She booked Diane a therapy appointment. My sister, who once said she'd rather chew glass than sit in a therapist's waiting room, spent a week researching, making calls, reading reviews. She found a woman named Dr. Hofstede who specializes in family dynamics and, Tessa's words, people who don't realize they're toxic. Then she drove to Diane's house, sat her down and said, "Mom, I made you an appointment. Not because you're crazy. Because you're losing your family and you don't know how to stop." Diane said, "I don't need a therapist. Obviously. Because admitting you need help means admitting something's wrong, and Diane has built her entire identity on nothing being wrong." Tessa said, "Amanda won't read your apology. Patrice feels guilty for covering for you for 40 years. Garrett called you out. Your grandson flinches when someone criticizes his drawings now. You can keep pretending or you can figure out why you keep hurting people who love you." Diane was quiet a long time. Then she said, "Will Amanda talk to me if I go?" Tessa said, "I don't know. But she definitely won't if you don't." That's what got her. Not guilt. Just the simple truth that doing nothing meant losing me forever. She went. Tessa drove her. Sat in the waiting room the full hour. When Diane came out, her eyes were red but she wasn't crying. She just looked tired. Like someone who'd been carrying something heavy for decades and just realized they were allowed to put it down. She went back Thursday. And the next Tuesday. And the Thursday after that. Tessa kept me updated but never pushed. She never said, "Mom's changing, you should call." She just gave me facts and let me decide. That respect meant everything. About 3 weeks in, Brody and I were at the grocery store. Saturday morning, cereal aisle. I turned the corner and there she was. Diane. Holding a box of oatmeal like a completely normal person. We both froze. Brody saw her first. And he didn't run to her. He grabbed my hand and stepped behind my leg. My 4-year-old instinctively hid from his grandmother. And I saw Diane register that. Not anger. Not her usual defensive wall. Just pain. Real pain. She said, "Hi, Amanda." I said, "Hi, Mom." Then she did something I've never seen her do in 27 years. She crouched down right there in the cereal aisle, eye level with Brody, and said quietly, "Brody, I'm so sorry I said mean things about your drawing. Your drawings are beautiful. Grandma was wrong and Grandma is trying to be better." No audience. No performance. Nobody else in the aisle. Just her and a 4-year-old, and the most honest thing she'd said in decades. Brody looked up at me. I nodded. He looked back at her and said, "It's okay, Grandma. I made another picture. It's a dog this time." Diane did this small broken little laugh and said, "I'd really love to see it someday." I almost lost it right there between the Cheerios and Frosted Flakes. But I held it together because apparently that's just what I do. We didn't hug. I said, "We'll see, Mom." She nodded like that was more than she deserved. Things moved slowly after that. I didn't unblock her for 2 more weeks. When I did, I sent one text. "I'm not ready to talk yet. But I know you're going to therapy and I respect that." She wrote back, "I'll wait as long as you need." No guilt trip. No, but. For Diane, that was basically a miracle. Tessa told me that in therapy, Diane was unpacking stuff from her own childhood. Their mom, my Nana Rose, was apparently the same way. The image obsession, the need to be admired, the tearing down your own kids. Diane inherited it like some emotional family heirloom nobody asked for. That doesn't excuse anything. But it helped me understand she wasn't evil. She was damaged. And she was finally trying to fix it. Small things started happening. Diane sent Brody a card with a dinosaur on it that said, "I'm proud of you." Nothing else. He stuck it on the fridge and showed me every morning for a week. Then she asked, through Tessa, not directly, if she could come to Brody's preschool art show. Not demanded. Asked. And said if I wasn't comfortable she understood. I said yes. With conditions. Tessa would be there. No comments about anyone's art. If Brody got uncomfortable, Diane leaves. No arguments. She agreed to all of it. The art show was a Friday afternoon. Tiny chairs, finger paintings, juice boxes. Brody had a watercolor rainbow that honestly looked like a colorful car accident, but he was beaming. Diane walked in, saw it, and said, "Brody, that is the most amazing rainbow I've ever seen." He lit up. She sat in a tiny chair next to me and didn't say one critical word the entire time. At one point I looked over and she was crying. Quietly so nobody would notice. But I noticed. In the parking lot after, she said, "I can't undo what I did. Dr. Hofstede says I should stop trying to undo it and start building something new. So that's what I'm doing. Even if it's just sitting in a tiny chair drinking a juice box." I laughed. Actually laughed. And for 1 second I saw my mom. Not Diane the performer. Not Diane the critic. Just my mom. I said, "You're doing good, Mom." She said, "I've got a long way to go." "Yeah. You do." Brody waved as she walked away. "Bye, Grandma. I'll draw you a dog." She turned around and said, "I'll put it on my fridge." He drew it. A big purple dog with 3 legs because he ran out of room. She put it on her fridge and sent me a photo. Underneath she wrote, "Best thing on my fridge." I cried. Same kitchen floor where I sat when I blocked her. But this time it wasn't rage or fear. It was relief. This tiny, fragile, careful feeling that maybe the cycle ends with us. Everything's not perfect. I still hear her voice in my head some days telling me I'm not enough. Trust isn't a light switch. But Diane goes to therapy every week. Hasn't missed once. Tessa drives her most days, and those two have this weird little Tuesday through Thursday routine that neither of them would have imagined 6 months ago. Uncle Garrett, the man who once ate an entire Thanksgiving dinner without speaking, texted Diane, "Proud of you, sis." From Garrett, that's basically a novel. So yeah, that's where my story is right now. Messy, complicated, not finished. But we're trying. All of us. And Brody's happy. And my mom is getting help. And sometimes that's enough. If any of this felt familiar, if you've got a Diane in your life or you've been the one on the kitchen floor, I just want you to know that setting a boundary isn't giving up on someone. Sometimes saying, "Okay," and walking away is the thing that finally wakes them up. Thank you for listening to all of this. If you like the story, I'd really appreciate a like. And if you see it differently or something didn't sit right, please drop a comment. I genuinely want to hear your perspective. Every story has more than one side. Thanks for watching. It means more than you know. It means more than you know. It means more than you know.